They wanted him once and now it looks like they want him again. However, Chris Sutton reckons that Brendan Rodgers would be making a downgrade if he chose West Ham over Celtic. Welcome back, guys, to Fog Football. West Ham look like they could be looking for a new manager. This season hasn't been working out for Julien Lopetegui in charge of the club. The Hammers seem to be getting hammered every game. They're falling towards the bottom of the Premier League table, and it looks like they could be bringing in a new manager, or at least be setting their sights on a new manager. And another name that has been thrown around, another name that is pretty high in the managerial odds to be the next West Ham manager, is none other than Celtic manager Brendan Rodgers. Now, we know, if the rumours are true from last year, that West Ham were looking at Rodgers as a possibility to bring him in to replace the outgoing David Moyes. However, there was no offer made, so therefore Rodgers never had a decision to make. However, it does look like Rodgers could be once again wanted by West Ham. We know that Rodgers has managed in the Premier League multiple times. He's had success with all three clubs that he's managed, albeit Leicester, Liverpool didn't end in the best of terms. He still had success. He should have won the league with Liverpool. It's not his fault. Gerrard slipped. And then we know at Leicester, he won an FA Cup and he finished 5th twice in a row. And to be honest, he bottled it, or Leicester bottled it. But twice they went into the last day looking like they were going to finish 4th, and they ended up throwing away a Champions League spot. So, I mean, Rodgers has had success in the Premier League, but he probably should have had even more success. And I think we all know that he ideally wants to be a Premier League manager. And West Ham are a pretty good Premier League team. I think you could definitely argue West Ham are a better option than Leicester. They're certainly a bigger club than Leicester. I'd say they've got better finances than Leicester. Being a London club as well makes them more appealing than Leicester. So, yeah, maybe at the time when Rodgers managed Leicester, perhaps Leicester were in front of West Ham, but looking at things right now, I would say that West Ham are definitely a step above, and they are, you know, a more appealing option than Leicester. And if Rodgers left Celtic to go to Leicester, then who's to say he wouldn't leave Celtic to go to West Ham? But Chris Sutton has said this would be a mistake, and that Rodgers should not leave Celtic because it would be a downgrade to go to the London outfit. Now, during his radio show, the 606 Football Phone-In, there was a caller that brought up the fact that Rodgers is being linked with West Ham, and he said that he wants him in. He believes that Brendan Rodgers would do a good job. However, Sutton shut this down. Sutton said, quote, "He's at a huge club north of the border." End of quote. The caller then replied saying, "I think if the money was right, he might have gone to West Ham," which I think is fair. He was referring to the fact that Rodgers was linked to West Ham last year as well, but he chose to say, "Stay at Celtic," to which Sutton replied, quote, "Oh, come on. He wouldn't want to downgrade to West Ham from Celtic," end of quote. And I mean, I get what Sutton's doing. He's defending Celtic. He is trying to put the idea off a Rodgers going to West Ham. But I mean, I'm not convinced, and I'm not sticking the knife in here, but I do think if West Ham actually came in and they offered Rodgers the West Ham job and the money was appropriate to what the Premier League money is, and they weren't trying to lowball Brendan Rodgers, I do believe that he would go. Now, it would probably end his Celtic career once and for all. I don't think he would ever be back at the club. I don't think the fans would have any respect for him, because that would be twice he would be walking out. But I still believe that it would be too good an opportunity to turn down. Now, maybe with the new format in the Champions League, that could persuade Rodgers to stay. But I think that if West Ham came in and they were serious and they were going to give him a good contract, a long-term contract with a bit of stability, even though you can get fired at any time. But if they were willing to offer him a long, multi-year deal, and Rodgers has got the reassurance that even if it goes wrong, that he's still going to get a good payout, then I'd believe that he would take West Ham. We're not saying that West Ham's a bigger club, but they're in the Premier League, and I think people need to factor that in. It's the same thing with O'Reilly. People couldn't bend their head round why Matt O'Reilly was leaving Celtic to go to Brighton. You know, it's pretty damn obvious. All right, it's not because Brighton's a bigger club than Celtic. It's because the quality of the league. It's the money that you're making in that league compared to up here. So I think that unfortunately, when a Celtic manager does well, you're always going to be at risk of losing them. It's the same with Ange Postecoglou. Him turning down Tottenham, it wasn't going to happen. It's unfortunate, but the Scottish League, you just can't keep managers. And same with Aston Villa, when they came in for Gerrard, it was unlikely that Gerrard was going to stay at Rangers unless he truly thought that if he stayed at Rangers, Liverpool were going to come knocking. Fact is, if you overperform in Scotland, if you make a good impression, then the likelihood is the big clubs are going to come in for you and you're not going to stay at your club. Now, it doesn't mean that you want your manager to perform mediocre so no one comes in. I don't think anybody wants that. But if you're doing good, and Rodgers is certainly doing good right now, he won the league last year, he won the Scottish Cup last year, great start to the Champions League, great start to the league, into the semi-finals of the Scottish League Cup. I mean, it's no surprise that clubs are once again looking at Brendan Rodgers. Plus, when you look at his history, the guy's got a very good record in the Premier League. Like I said, should have had multiple top four finishes with Leicester, should have won the league with Liverpool, and his Swansea team at the time, you know, was different gravy. He had Swansea playing some really great football. So, yeah, not surprised. I agree that West Ham's not a bigger club as Celtic, but I still think that they're a more appealing club than Celtic, and it's the same thing with the players. If West Ham came in for Matt O'Reilly, O'Reilly would have left Celtic go to West Ham, and I think it remains the same. I think if West Ham come in with a serious bid, I do believe that Rodgers would go, despite Sutton believing it is a downgrade. Anyway, guys, let us know what you think down below, and we'll catch you in the next one. Fog Football. Peace out.